Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. A night where you'd think that Auburn losing as the #1 team in the country might be the story of the evening. I know. The story of the evening came in beautiful Ames, Iowa. Okay, so Iowa State hosting BYU. This was a top 25 matchup, so it's not as though this game completely came off the radar, but it's been really interesting. You know, Iowa State, to their credit, had a great win over Arizona over the weekend, and those pesky little BYU Cougars, I've been trying to tell you about them. I've been trying to tell you how good they are, that they're coming, that they're on their way. But the crazy thing is, even BYU fans were admitting, like earlier in the week, when I kind of said after the West Virginia win on Saturday, this is the team that nobody wants to face. Even BYU fans said, like, look, Torres, let's get through this Iowa State game. That is going to show us where we are, how much work we have to do, and how we match up truly with the elite of the elite of the elite in this conference. You know, we beat Kansas at home. That was awesome. Go on the road and beat Arizona by 1. But what's going to happen at Iowa State? They're playing well, preseason top 10 team. Well, we got our answer resoundingly on Tuesday night in what might have been the game of the year. Wasn't always pretty for BYU. What was it, 29 turnovers in general? But it does not matter because they get the double overtime 88-85 win. This game was bananas, okay? So this game was bananas, so let's go ahead and dive into it. First of all, a little bit of a slow start, but I think what kind of jumped out to me was that BYU is in control late first half into the second half. Take control late in the first half. I was flipping channels because there was a million games on, eating a little dinner, whatever, flip it back. They're up 20 plus points in the second half. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the statement game of all statement games. They're going to win by 100. They're unbelievable. They're the best team. Oh my God, they're unbelievable. Then they turn the ball over a few times. Then Iowa State makes a few shots. Then all of a sudden you look up and it is tied. Iowa State comes back from a 21-point deficit to Joshua Jefferson free throws right before the end of regulation, send it into overtime. And then we get another overtime where BYU ultimately wins, okay? Listen, I could break this game down minute by minute, frame by frame, whatever. All you need to know is if you miss this, go find the highlights somewhere. Stay on YouTube, stay on this channel. When this show's done, go find the highlights because it is unbelievable the competitiveness of this game, the fire of this game, the back and forth of this game, the emotional swings of this game. I mean, it's like, I'm getting PTSD just thinking about it. There was a Keba Keita chase down block that was like one of the best plays I've seen all year in college basketball. Huge shot making, BYU, Iowa State. And I think the thing that just stood out in this game, by the end, the announcers, I think it was Chris Spatola was maybe the, not the play-by-play, but the color commentator. And he said, he's like, these guys are done. They have nothing left. And it really, to me, felt like an NCAA tournament game, a Sweet 16 game, an Elite 8 game, where there's two teams that you didn't know what you were expecting coming in, but you weren't expecting that. And then you end up getting one of the great games of the season as, again, BYU goes on the road and wins at Iowa State. And so, listen, I could break it down minute by minute, but what you need to know, listen, I have been telling you for weeks that BYU is coming, okay? And listen, I understand there was trepidation early in the year, first-year head coach. What does it all mean? But even in early Big 12 play when this team was quote-unquote struggling, I mean, they were losing to good teams by small margins. 5-point loss at home to Texas Tech. We now know Texas Tech's a pretty darn good team. 4-point loss on the road at TCU. 1-point loss to your rival. And I really felt like that Baylor game about 2.5 weeks ago was really the turning point. Or I guess it was more now, maybe a month and a half ago. And then even the first Arizona game in the Marriott Center, Arizona won. But it was this incredible game, and you could see this coming. We've talked about the lineup changes. We've talked about going more veteran heavy. But Kevin Young is figuring this out on the fly. And right now, there is no doubt that BYU is pretty much the hottest team anywhere in college basketball. Houston might have a little bit of a longer winning streak. Duke might be this, whatever. Tell me you want to see BYU in your bracket right now, okay? So BYU, producer Matt, pop up the tweet from our Torres on BYU page. And by the way, shout out to Minty, who runs our Torres on BYU page. He was on top of this game on Tuesday night. But this stat to me is just unbelievable. The last 7 games, so BYU's on a 7-game winning streak right now, okay? I think I probably should have mentioned that. If I didn't, shame on me. It's not like they're playing, nobody you. It's not like they're playing, by the way, shout out to Doug Gottlieb, my guy there. It wasn't a knock on him, but, I just bring it up because you look at this 7-game win streak. And again, I don't know what else there is to say other than that they're beating some of the best teams in college basketball. Okay, listen, look at this resume in this 7-game stretch. Again, this is per Cougar stats on our BYU Torres on BYU page. If you're a BYU fan, I know a lot of you are going to see this video. Make sure to follow Torres on BYU. But in the 7 games, 5 quad 1 wins, okay? Something that's not on this sheet. I think a minimum of 4 or 5 of them are against tournament teams. You beat West Virginia at home the other night. You obviously beat Kansas in a game that Kansas, just got obliterated by the Cougars. You have a second win over West Virginia, who is very much in the tournament, okay? So 2 wins over West Virginia, a win over Kansas, that big win over Arizona at Arizona. And again, people want to say, oh, it was a fluke. Oh, it was this. Oh, there was a bad foul call. No. You scored 96 points at the McHale Center. You easily deserved that game. It did not come down to one call, even if it wasn't a great call. And then I'll say this, even the Arizona State game, not a great win on paper, but remember, they were coming off of 2 huge wins, Kansas and at Arizona. You're sitting in a hotel for 3 days, and it doesn't really matter because you come out and obliterate Arizona State as well. So last 7 games, the 7-game winning streak, 5 quad 1 wins, 3 against ranked teams. And then it goes without saying, number 19, Arizona in Tucson, Iowa State in Ames. And you see it right there. The third biggest win the third biggest margin of victory Kansas has allowed in 125 years. So it's unbelievable. And the only thing I would really add with BYU, the only thing that I can think to add is what we talked about after I went to Provo a few weeks ago. I think everybody knows by now I was in Provo for a few days for that Kansas BYU game. And the one thing I'll say is, I don't get to go on the road as much as I would like. I'm privileged, get to do Fox Sports Radio every weekend. So obviously I'm in the radio studio on Saturday nights. So I don't get to as many games as I would love to during the season. But I bring it up because I try to get out because you want to meet with people. You want to talk to staff. And the one thing I will say, having been in Provo that week for the BYU Kansas game, whatever it was, 2.5 weeks ago, the one thing I said it at the time, and I'll say it again. This BYU program, they believe that they are a rocket ship headed to the moon, okay? Listen, I understand there are certain programs through the years that have a ceiling that this, that, whatever. Well, guess what? BYU now doesn't feel like, oh, just because we haven't done this in this long doesn't mean we can't do this going forward. The term that Kevin Young, their coach, likes to use, this isn't a hypothetical. I think that's more in reference to his background. I've coached Kevin Durant. I've coached Devin Booker. I was in the NBA. But this isn't hypothetical for BYU. They are now in the Big 12. They now have resources that can match anybody in that league. And I think as importantly, and I said this at the time, they really have alignment across that university. I saw this is kind of random, but a few days ago, I saw my buddy Josh Pate, who, he's the godfather of YouTube college football coverage. But Josh Pate said something to the effect of, it doesn't matter, how many, basically there's a lot of schools with a lot of money, a lot of resources, a general manager or this, that. But if everybody isn't rowing in the same direction on how to allocate those resources, it doesn't matter. Well, that applies to college football, but that applies to college basketball as well. And I look at BYU and being there, and everybody's rowing in the same direction. The administration gives the program what they need, but isn't overbearing as best I could tell. I know there's a new AD coming in, so you never know. But I just bring it up because I think there's a lot of schools that have resources, are in a power conference, but behind the scenes, it's a total mess. And that is not the case at BYU. Everybody's rowing in the same direction. And so I said it at the time, they are a program that feels like, hey, why can't we win the Big 12? Why can't we go deep into the tournament? Why can't we be an April team? An April team, of course, being one that makes the Final Four, which is generally played in April, even if we call it March Madness. And so they said that to me when I was there. Like, why not us? We're in the Big 12 now. We're in a power conference. We have great resources. We have great support from the administration. Why not us? Well, guess what? To quote, as I said to lead the show, to quote Deion Sanders, to quote Coach Prime, BYU's coming, baby, and you better be ready, because to me, I think they're just going to be a horror to see in your bracket, and I said that on Sunday's show. You know how as a program that you've arrived when other fan bases are tweeting, I don't want to see that team at all. It's one thing for a guy in the media, oh, Torres, you're just kissing butt, whatever. I'm not. I don't say what I don't mean. But what I would also say is, listen, I'm a UConn alum. I had my UConn people, like, I saw them tweeting. If we're in that 8-9 range, we do not want BYU. Now, I think BYU might end up being much better than an 8 seed when it's all said and done, but they were like, we do not want that team. I saw Jason Shear, who covers Arizona, does a great job. One of my guys, love Jason Shear, tweeted something like, good luck to the 8-9 team that draws BYU. So this team is coming. They're on the rise, and as we all know, it ain't slowing down. Some of the best players on the court on Wednesday night, Tuesday night, in theory, could be back. Dallin Hall was unbelievable, has another year of eligibility. Richie Saunders was unbelievable, has another year of eligibility. And we know that recruiting class is taking a backseat to nobody. So unbelievable game for BYU. Unbelievable night